and gentlemen. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, right?
Yes, hopefully ladies and gentlemen, but the majority of you will be gentlemen. Hey, y'all.
Call her.
Her.
Or him. Well, we'll discuss that later.
Let's do pronouns at a different episode, okay? Let's do appropriate pronouns later, okay?
Anyway, I might from time to time call her a her.
Right, and I might call she a she.
Okay. It's our debut. It's our premiere. It's our season 1, episode 1.
We are here. We are queer.
I just have to put a disclaimer.
Oh gosh, here it comes.
Place a disclaimer. I'm super nervous about this. Like we've never done anything like this. So this is just as best as we can.
Yes. To the best of both of our abilities. Right. I am the opposite side. I'm super excited, probably disproportionately excited. So I'm looking to see and enjoy and learn and share. Did you like your water? Did you like your water?
This is not water.
It's very good water.
It smells like rum, coconut rum.
Well, it's water from the Puerto Rican islands. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
We're getting drunk on the show now?
Who said we're getting drunk?
Anyway. Hi, Junito.
So, hi, everybody. We are here excited and looking forward to the journey ahead. As you can see, we're both a big-ass mess. Independently, when we're together, we seem to be a funny mess. So, why not document it and see how it goes?
So today, just to give you guys an idea of who we are and where we're coming from and what we want to do with the show is talk to you about how we actually process information. We took a test the other day, and it was the Myers-Briggs test. I know a lot of you are familiar with that. But anyway, we tested, I tested as an ESTJ, which made me the executive. What was yours, Jonathan?
I was the protagonist, so ENFJ.
So the difference we found interesting because we were both E's, which was the extroverted parts of us, right? We were different in the N and the S's of how we observe versus how he uses more intuition, and I use more observation to seek the energy from around us. And then the T and the F we found was interesting. That was different also, which was the thinking versus feeling on how to make decisions. And then the J, we were the same on judging. And judging wasn't really a negative thing. It was more how decisive we are, you know. Whereas other people, to make those decisions, they prospect. But anyway, this is not a Myers-Briggs episode.
The opportunity for us was to be able to weave that into our first episode. We wanted to be able to connect with people and share ourselves with everyone. So we took an opportunity to take this and really kind of understand our personalities and give an opportunity for us to be able to share our individual personality types. Chris is more of a thinker. He's more of a logical, analytical type of person. I'm more of an emotional person, more of a feeler, if you will. So this is us going to explore the depths of feelers and thinkers.
So, and in that, I kind of want to dive into the emotion versus the logical aspect. So, I'm thinking of when, like, we want to be in a relationship with someone.
Okay.
How you and I differ.
Exponentially different.
In how we approach the person that we're dating or encountering.
Right.
I've always said I always put people in 3 categories when I'm dating. Either the sexual category, I'm going to have sex with this person, it's a hookup, the person that it's going to be a friendship, and then the third one that is going to be a romantic endeavor. And I think that in order to meet the one, if you will, you have to have like all 3 of them. And sometimes, and the reason why I think it's important to have all 3 is because if you only have the 2, then you'll always lack something later down the road. So for example, let's say you're with somebody for about 10 years and you're hanging out at home. They're not necessarily, they're tired from work. You both are tired. You're not necessarily going to be romantic, but you still have a friendship, right? And you get to hang out, you get to watch some of the same movies, you get to play video games or whatever the case is that you share as a friend, just hanging out. A lot of people talk about that. I like to be with this person because I could just be with them and know that we're there and we're connected. And then the sexual aspect, of course, you need that. But you won't have it every single day, although some of us might have sex every single day.
Hi.
But yeah, so the three components are sex, sexual relationship, the friendship relationship, and the romantic relationship. And so I always look at that and categorize people. As soon as I meet them, I categorize them. Mm-hmm. And they can switch from, one to the other. Mm-hmm. But if they started a sexual one, there's no way that I'm going to process that as a romantic encounter. But if they start as a friendship, let's do it. Now, my mom always told me that in order, I asked her, what's going on with you and my dad? How is it that he was your first love or your first serious boyfriend? And you guys still act like like you guys are still in love. My dad gets home and he brings her flowers, and then they sneak around and make out, like if it's wrong for them to make out. And I'm like, you guys need to calm down. You're not in high school anymore. It's been almost 40 years. And so I asked my mom, how did you do it? She's like, well, he's my best friend. Oh. So not only are they sexually compatible, they are romantically compatible, and also they're friends. They're best friends, literally. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's what I need. I need to find that best friend. And I think I found him. I'm happily in love and taken off the market, finally. It took me a long time.
It did take you a long time. Oh.
I was busy categorizing.
Right. She was putting everyone in these little categories. And for me, it's not like that at all. I'm learning now through experience and age that process is helpful to be able to find someone that's more suited for you or more compatible. And I think those three building blocks are a really cool foundation to a solid, serious relationship, especially for longevity. What I find to be a tendency of mine is that I go based off of how the interactions are and how they make me feel and build from that point on. So like how you separate people by categories, I separate people by how they make me feel. So for example...
But how does that work?
Well, see, for example, for me, if I meet a guy or I talk to a guy and the conversation leads to us having this really cool exchange, it's really friendly and a kiki session, if you will, where we start to, crack a lot of jokes and laugh and stuff like that. It's an instantaneous friendship feel for me. Like, this guy is going to be a really good friend, and we explore that particular venue. And it's all based off the feelings I get from the initial interaction. Now, on the other end of that, if someone gives me this, high-end sex vibe where they're looking to just to hook up or they're looking to have some fun, and, adult fun, if you will, then
that adult fun,
that will lead me to that endeavor. But as far as the romantic side, I think for me, and I don't know, maybe it's like this for a lot of other feelers, but for me, the romantic part is always kind of ambiguous. You find romantic possibility in someone who you're friendly with. You find romantic possibility with someone that you're sexual with, but it doesn't develop until one of those two come to fruition, which is really interesting for me. I think that's one of the reasons why I've struggled with relationships in general.
You struggle?
A little bit. But I think one of the reasons why is because I've always intermingled romance with friendship and sex.
So you're saying that you kind of mix the two?
Yeah, like it's a big old orgy, if you will. And everyone's just jumping in, head first, and we're having a good old time in the process. But, there's never really a clear distinction until either it's too late or, one of us has moved on. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not the same process for me. But what I've learned through talking with Chris and talking with other people who are like me, that separation and really having clear distinctions between the encounters is helpful.
Is it hard to put them in there?
Yes, because you still want to,
So if you meet this guy, Chunito, let's kind of censor or something.
I still want to have fun.
You want to have fun at the same time as
Yes.
getting to know somebody for the future.
Correct.
But don't you feel that...
That's a good way of putting that. It's a great way of putting that.
Well, because
how I feel and how I think.
I usually say that don't you think?
Right.
But you don't.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a really cool tip for our feelers and thinkers out there. When you talk to someone that identifies as a thinker and as a feeler, when you ask them questions, ask them that relative to what their comfort zone is, and then when you ask them that question, ask them the one that comes out of there. So for a feeler, you want to ask them how you feel about something, because that's initially what they're going to give you. For a thinker...
So you ask a feeler what they think, what is usually happening?
There's usually like this reaction, like, okay, what do I think? Because usually they're not really clear on what they think yet. If
they
it's
haven't even...
Right, I haven't even begun the process. So it's like, it's when you ask me how I feel, boom, I can tell you exactly what I feel.
And when you ask a thinker how they feel, we don't want to be vulnerable and we shut down. And
it's like, it's literally like this, how I feel.
Right, that's irrelevant.
Right.
That's what we would say.
Irrelevant.
Right.
Oh.
Emotions are irrelevant. They're irrelevant.
This is episode 1, boo. Don't get cute. Don't get real cute.
They can be irrelevant, no?
Are you asking me seriously?
It's because emotions, to me, they mess everything.
Okay. I was no. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me stop being cute for a second and let me respond logically. Yes, emotions can complicate things. Yes, emotions can have a tendency to overrun and drive certain scenarios and situations. But the really cool and beautiful thing about emotions is that they balance thoughts, and vice versa. I think that's a really cool thing. That they're there for a reason, right? If you think about emotions and thoughts on a spectrum or on a line, they're on opposite ends. You know what I mean? And the goal is to get to that middle part, to have that balance. But I don't think there is ever a moment where emotions don't matter.
I just feel like it gets in the way of people.
You feel like it gets in the way. Interesting.
I think that it gets in the way of people. No, I know that it gets in the way. I absolutely know that it gets in the way.
I'll give you that in certain situations, yes, feelings do get in the way. You don't want to have someone all in their feelings when someone is, in a burning house. You don't want a firefighter to be like, oh my God, the flames, in a situation like that. Because you want him to think logically. Okay, I need to get into this place. How can I get into this place? What's the best route? Emotions in that particular situation, yes. But when you're in a funeral and you have a grieving person next to you and you're trying to console them, is your logic going to help that person?
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember like...
How?
Okay, I'll explain. My grandmother died almost a year ago. 2 days from now, she will have passed a year ago. I miss you, Grandma. But I remember that I didn't feel anything.
Okay.
My sense of duty, my thought process was, how can I make sure that my family is okay? How can I make sure that the funeral is beautiful? How can I make sure that the songs that we're going to sing for her are going to be appropriate? Are the songs that she wanted? How can I help with the montage to create? How can I make sure the logistics of that funeral are going to go smoothly? That's what my thought process was.
Okay.
It wasn't until later when because that was in El Paso, Texas. Now, coming back to Dallas, I had a moment. I had I was by myself and I was able to have that moment and kind of go through those emotions. But they were off during all of that time because I felt like what was needed in that moment was not my emotions, but rather my thought process on how to make it better.
I mean, I would agree with you. We all need that person that is the person that can help with, planning stuff out and isn't, encumbered, I would say, by their feelings unnecessarily.
Or paralyzed.
I wouldn't say paralyzed.
I'll tell you something. Some of my family members, I will not say names, but they felt that I didn't care that much about my grandma. Because I didn't react like, I guess, the emotional ones.
Well, I mean...
I would call them over-emotional, overbearing, over-sensitive.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but okay. I mean,
But they're completely paralyzed and they can't move or do anything about it. Why? It's time to act.
you have to take in consideration that the way that they process things isn't the same as you are. You know, impact doesn't equal. I mean, or expression doesn't equal impact. You know what I mean?
Right.
The impact that your grandma made to you was definite. You know what I mean? It's something that you feel and have felt for the entirety of your life. But the expression to that love or those feelings that you had for her weren't similar or the same as everyone else. So no one can hold you accountable to not expressing what they view love to be, or mourning or loss, whatever the case may be. But to say that someone is paralyzed or too sensitive, it's like saying that loving is too much, or loving someone too much is wrong, or loving someone too much is not appropriate.
So how can I, as a thinker, better connect with somebody that I feel is paralyzed with emotion, and I need them to move?
I think the first step to identifying any issue with any feeler is to acknowledge what they're feeling. Tell them, I understand you. I empathize with you.
Just by saying it?
No, by not only saying it, but demonstrating it. You know what I mean?
God. It seems like more waste of a time. I mean, I'm not really heartless. I just...
she just plays heartless on TV, okay? Like...
No, I am very kind and caring.
I agree.
But sometimes you need to snap out of your emotions.
Agreed. But there is a way to effectively do that so that the person...
This is helping, by the way.
Right, that water is good. That water is good.
Yeah.
It's from the Appalachian Mountains, deep in the rainforest of Puerto Rico. FYI, there isn't mountains in Puerto Rico. It's
Appalachian Mountains?
In Puerto Rico, yes.
But, okay. Well, we'll have to look that up because I don't think...
I don't feel that was accurate either, but it was to the point. The point is it's water. But the best way to be able to help someone that is a feeler in those particular instances is just be able to acknowledge what they're feeling, but put things in perspective. You know what I mean? I understand it's hard. I understand that you're going through pain right now, and it's completely okay for you to do that. You're justified. But right now, what we need to focus on is getting through this. Get your thoughts together, get your feelings in order, and let's get this done, because this is the most important part. This is what we need to do. This is what Grandma would want. For us to work together to be a family. Grandma cry. And and this will get people out of their feelings. You need to, and it's literally that. I don't know if anyone else can attest to that, but it's literally pulling someone out of their feelings and giving them the opportunity to start thinking about what's going on. Because when you're overwhelmed by your feelings, it takes control of everything. Like all your senses, all you hear, all you see, all you taste and feel and touch, everything is your feelings at that moment, especially something that's really deeply impacting. You have to kind of guide them out of that and help them get to a point where they're like, okay, now we're on solid ground. Now we can think about what's going on and let's move forward with that. But just saying that they're oversensitive, you're just making it worse, because now you're just going to create more sensitivity.
I think what would help from the emotional person's point of view to kind of cope with a thinker in that situation is to let them know that you're going through that and it's going to take you some time.
Right.
And if you quantify that time, it helps so much.
It's so hard, though.
Like, I need 15 minutes.
Hard.
Okay, I'll give you 15 minutes.
It's so hard. Because you guys, I was going to say you people.
You people? Oh, you people.
I was going to say thinkers have a tendency to be very strict when it comes to expectations. That's another thing that is very distinct between a feeler and a thinker is expectation setting and how expectations are implemented and expressed. Thinkers have a tendency when they want you to quantify something, they want you give me down to the second, bitch. Like, if you need 15 and a half minutes, I'm going to give you 15 and a half minutes. And on that 15 and a half, you ready?
Right.
We got to go.
Right.
And that is such a hard thing to do.
Why? You said 15 minutes.
Because we really don't know. There really isn't.
No. You have no idea how long it's
None whatsoever. Bitch, I can tell you it's going to take you 2 minutes to get over this boo-hoo time. And no, ma'am, it's not going to happen.
Lord have mercy.
But at the same time, what I feel is a tendency, because not a lot of feelers are amicable as well. Like, they're not people that are amiable in personality, where they want to please everybody. Some feelers are very selfish. You know, negatively and positively. But there are some feelers who are more amiable in personality where they want to please everybody. So it's difficult for someone who's a feeler, who's also amiable in personality, where they want to make you happy at their expense. You know what I mean? At their detriment. So sometimes that's difficult to quantify what one needs or one needs to do, because we're thinking here, what do you want to hear? Not what I'm actually needing.
And we want to hear what you need.
Right, because we're thinking here, oh, he's going to be mad if I tell him I need like 5 days. I need to call off work. Like, it's a whole thing.
Have you ever felt that you needed time to process? Like,
well, I mean, a recent example was this trip we just went on, right? We just went to, it was about an hour away from San Antonio, Texas. For everyone who doesn't know us, we live in Dallas, Texas.
Right, Dallas, Texas.
And we're best friends because we didn't actually introduce ourselves at the beginning. We got right into the topic. Right. But we're best friends. And we're roommates. And we live in Dallas, Texas. And we drove from Dallas to about an hour or so outside of San Antonio, Texas for a wedding of a family friend of his. And I was graciously invited. So we went to the event. And it was awesome. Like, it was a beautiful event. Shout out to the bride and groom if you're watching. We love you. It was an amazing event. It was a great time. And afterwards, we were driving back home. And I was really quiet and pensive. And Chris was wondering, what's wrong? Like, what's going on with you? Like, what's happening? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just processing.
Well, you started crying.
Well, yeah, I was already in tears. But when he started to ask me, the tears just kind of free-flowing at that point. So I'm just processing what happened. So he interpreted, or at least from my view, he interpreted like something was wrong. Because I said, I'm processing what happened as if something wrong happened.
What happened? Who messed with you?
Like, he's like, who hurt you? But no, what my process is, like, whenever I observe something, and it's positive and or negative, it takes some time for me to reconcile my own feelings about the situation. I've learned over the years, though, that when something happens, like something that is positive or negative, I'm present in the moment and I react and respond accordingly to that, but it doesn't give me opportunity to really process my own feelings in the matter. So I've learned to prioritize over time, and when we were in the car was the time that I elected to process my own feelings about what was going on. And the one thing that I remember, and disclaimer, I might cry because it's something that I'm actually still very much sensitive to. But one thing that I enjoyed was the interaction between everyone. You know what I mean? We were part of a really big group. We were all staying in the same house. And we rented this big, beautiful lake house. And it was an awesome time together. We hung out pretty much every day. We spent a lot of time together talking. And this was my first introduction to a few of his childhood friends. And the second time that I've hung out with his actual siblings and their significant others. So it was fun for me. It was a really great time. One thing that I kept in the back of my mind was how I interact with my own siblings. I have 2 brothers and a sister. And it really put things in mind for me, the reason why we couldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, with my siblings and be able to do this. And then I started thinking here, are we that cool? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I started really to think about the relationship that he has with his siblings and his relationship he has with people that he grew up with in relation to how I am with my family. And it really kind of put things in a clear perspective that was impacting me. Like, I was feeling badly and feeling like almost a little bit envious of it and thinking, I even said this to him in the car, in tears, like all the time that we wasted as, you know, as grown-ups. From the time that we were kids, we were best friends from the time that my brothers and sister were born until we became adults. And when we became adults, from then till now, we haven't been the most close that we could be. And I kept thinking in my head, man, all the time that we wasted being mad at each other, you know what I mean? And being shitty to one another. Like, it would be so awesome if we could do something like this, you know? So that was what I was processing in the moment. And he's looking at me like, bitch, why are you crying? What's wrong? So we actually, like, debated in the car about it. Like, it was a pretty heated discussion. Like, I was almost defensive. I'm like, wait, bitch, I need you to calm down. Like, I'm in my feelings right now. And literally, you can ask him every single time that he mentioned something that was kind of emotional, it would literally start the waterworks. So it was interesting to say the least.
It's funny that you mentioned siblings and their interactions. My siblings, Alex and Daniel, I'm the oldest, but we have always kind of been friends. So we always kind of hung out, and we would add people, you know, either people we were dating or more friends, but we were the core friends that growing up. And so it was very interesting. We actually enjoy each other's companies. Now, a lot of siblings don't necessarily are become friends with their siblings for many reasons, right?
Right.
Some of them were partly because they're so the age gap is so great,
right.
But for us, we were kind of all together, and it kind of worked out that way. And the only thing that I held back from them for so long was the fact that I was gay. And it was
wait, hold on.
Yeah, they couldn't. Nobody could tell that I was gay.
You're gay?
Y'all can't tell if I'm gay.
You're gay?
I'm on the DL. Nobody knows that. Woo! No, but it was like that was the only thing that I held back from them. Other than that, they knew everything about me, and so once we got past that, then I felt like we got really close. So if there's any, like in your situation, I would encourage you guys to talk about things that make you feel vulnerable. There's a lot of things that siblings go through that they don't really talk about. You know, whether they had an experience with their parents or bad parenting or just the life that you went through. I know with me and my siblings, we've gone through financial hardships. We went through homelessness together. We stuck together with that, you know what I mean? And so it was always moving forward together and keeping that communication together. And even today, now that we were adults, we still try to meet on a weekly basis, you know, and we have a couple of businesses together that helps us stay together. And there's nothing like a business that'll keep you, you know, in everybody's loop. So I would recommend those that have trouble with your siblings, get them together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get them together frequently. And I know you don't like to quantify things, but do it weekly or bi-weekly. And stick to it. You know what I mean? Take time. It doesn't have to be a long time, 30 minutes, an hour. We do typically 2 hours a week. But if we have to cancel for whatever reason, we do. But we know that we're going to the next, you know, and just talk and catch up. And I think that helps a lot with siblings. How many weeks or how many months or how many years siblings go through without talking to each other, you know? It's not until they see each other at a funeral, their parents are sick.
Right.
And that shouldn't happen. I don't think if you want to keep that relationship, it's like any other friendship, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to keep that going together, so.
Absolutely. I
agree. I wish you the best of luck in that.
Girl.
And I'm sorry that I didn't understand you at first. I felt like somebody did something to you. So,
and she got mad.
Right?
And she got snappy. And she yelled at me.
So, just to wrap things up, I do want to let everybody know, thank you so much for your support. This is our first episode. On our announcement video, we had 1,600 views.
Yeah, and climbing.
And climbing, yes. I'm eternally grateful for that because I thought I was going to be happy with a couple.
Right, couple hundred people, like just to start off with,
but 1,600 and more is just it's just very nice to know that people are responding. So we encourage you to give us ideas and give us feedback on what we can do. We usually try to talk about topics that people think or feel, but are not willing to talk about it or express it, you know, outwardly. And it's just something that you're wondering. Leave it on the comment sections, and we'll make time to discuss that. I do want to leave with a note on how we want to move forward, and that is being a positive influence to the world. And it starts with our local world, our global atmosphere. So, for example, how can I be a better roommate? How can I be a better best friend? How can I be a better son, a better coworker, a better cousin, a better, you know, friend, a better slut? You know, sometimes people want to be sluts. Yeah. You got to be a better slut every single day. Up your game.
Cheers on that
one. But Kaizen is what the Japanese talked about, you know, this constant improvement of self. You keep going, you know, and every day you move forward, you're better than yesterday, and you shouldn't move backwards. So there is a quote from George Bernard Shaw, who was an economist, a British economist, if I'm not mistaken, and he talked about creating, what is life about? Life isn't really about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself.
Mm.
How many people spend a lot of time trying to find what they are or what they need to be? And I encourage you, like him, just create yourself, you know? And that's what we're here doing, you know? Absolutely. We're trying to help people create themselves. And there's a lot of topics out there that are controversial, that are impacting to us, which is why we want to share them with you guys.
Absolutely. And just to talk off his point, like creating the person that you are, it entails so many aspects that, you know, a lot of us don't really think or feel about, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of things that throughout the process that we call life, we learn. So this is an opportunity for us to share what happened with us and our experiences, and be able to help someone out and figure themselves out as well, you know, in creating that person that you want to be and being positive influences. So we're super excited for the opportunity to talk and share our thoughts, and we thank everyone for the support and the love, and hopefully this will continue and we have fun in the process. So
absolutely, from Chubb Thoughts to you guys, we love you guys.
Bye.